That's from my understanding, yeah, specific.
So I don't think we're looking for any broad changes here. I mean, we want to limit it to certain pieces of property and to entertain it, maybe each case at a time. I for one would like to hear some public comment after you're through, and I would like to hear from the previous applicants if they would like to come up and say a few words.
And if you have any other questions?
The only question that I had asked earlier was if we could reach out to the group that has come before council before that spoke with us about Lyme disease. I'd like to get their take on how effective this would be. Because that was really one of the big things that Asheville School came to us about.
Right.
Is effective Lyme disease, and if you're telling me that whatever this
You're
buzzing
gonna say-
is making me crazy. Okay.
Yeah, it's coming from.
I mean, it's like, if this isn't gonna work to help with the Lyme disease reduction, then I think we need to know about that before we proceed wholeheartedly. Because that was probably
Wasn't that
half
correct?
of, well, no, they basically,
You said there's no clear
there's
evidence.
no
But yeah,
correlation.
based on specifically what he emailed me, he indicated that he found no correlation at the county level based on rough estimates of deer density and county reports of Lyme disease. So he found no correlation. He indicated that deer are the major hosts for these type of tick species, but unusual weather or climate change could increase the ticks. Lack of prescribed fire and could increase ticks, particularly growing season fires. Changes in habitat could increase ticks. And I apologize, I'm reading directly from the email that he sent me. Arrival of new invasive tick species. There are also the increase in humans, pets, livestock, horses, raccoons, foxes, possums, chipmunks, or white-footed mice, which are the carriers of the bacteria that causes Lyme disease, could also increase ticks and tick-borne illnesses, is specifically what he indicated to me. And this was directly from the deer biologist. So there's a regional biologist with Wildlife Resource Commission. There's a deer biologist who's the one who sent me information. And then also their veterinarian sent me some information with very similar, and they also sent me some charts with the population of deer and the occurrences of Lyme disease too, if you'd like me to provide that for you as well.
Thank you.
So, well, I did. But what sort of action are we looking for here? No action
I guess it's a matter, I'll defer to Brad.
I believe that the next potential step that the committee can take is to direct my office to begin preparing what would essentially be the bones of an exception that we bring back to this committee. Or you could certainly direct us to just do some additional research if there is any particular issue or issues that you wanted more information about before making a decision about proceeding in any direction.
Or we could say, we're not interested in going further.
Always.
Yeah.
I want to know how many cases of Lyme disease is school.
name?
Yes, we've had 9 cases.
Again, for the thousands of people watching.
Thank you very much. Can I just say, thank you, Ms. Miles, that was tremendous. We had 9
Good to
cases.
say your name.
Oh, my name is Christopher Arbor. I teach at Asheville School. Thank you for your time today. We had 9 cases on Asheville School campus alone in 2019. In 2018, I believe there were 21 cases in the county as a whole, which says to me that the increase in Lyme disease is drastic. Just for our corner of the city, we had a third of the cases, almost half the cases from the previous year. Can I add a couple of other things? I'm curious with the studies that you found, was that just within North Carolina?
So the information that was provided for me was specifically from the deer biologist. I did also look at the CDC website and the North Carolina websites to get further information on what I found was across, in this particular general area on the East Coast, that Lyme disease is growing between Virginia and North Carolina, based on what the CDC reports and the North Carolina Health Department reports. But the information that I provided during my presentation was specifically from the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission.
And the CDC did or did not correlate that to anything specific?
So when I went on their website, I did find multiple articles that some had correlations between deer population, others did not. So when I spoke with the Wildlife Resources Commission biologist, I found a gray area and he confirmed that it was a gray area. Biologist specifically said there was no correlation. Because on the CDC website, they had information saying there was, and then there was also information saying there was not a correlation.
I think Ms. Miles hit the nail on the head when she referred to climate change, that with warmer winters, we're finding increases of lots of different problems, including ticks. I did come across studies out of Connecticut finding that lowering the deer population did in fact lower the tick population. And I'm not sure if that would have come out in your studies or not, and that's one data point. I'm not saying that's a conclusive study, but that was in Connecticut, where obviously Connecticut is where the disease was first identified. I would also add that Lyme disease is certainly one of our biggest concerns in this, but it's not our only concern. That the deer population is also causing, they're overgrazing our forests and wrecking the natural regenerative process. So our woods are in trouble. And the deer themselves are in trouble because they're starving. So the current situation we have is not good for the humans, for the woods, or for the deer. And the added benefit that the hunting would lead to providing for the hungry in Buncombe County strikes me as a really huge positive as well. Thank you.
Yeah, so, would you folks care to speak at all today and address this?
Sure.
Tell me your name again.
Sure. Stephen Beltram, Balsam Gardens. We own 34 acres in West Asheville where we grow certified organic vegetables. We also manage other properties in McDowell County and other parts of Buncombe County. We brought this up a couple years ago, as mentioned here. Let's see, where can I begin? The risk to our farming production is very high. Just to give an example, last year in Black Mountain, they started building a factory across the interstate from us. We lost an acre of organic dandelion greens. That's a $30,000 loss. At our property in West Asheville, we till 20 acres. So the risks to us, the math is 30,000 times 20 if we don't manage this situation correctly. Wildlife Commission said that we were able to get a depredation permit by all of their rules. However, he was not willing to give it to us because it would be in violation of the ordinance. Now, the purpose of the depredation permit is so that you can actually harvest the animals for food out of season. Landowners are permitted by North Carolina wildlife law to kill animals that are destroying crops while they're in the act, as was brought up. So there's no law. The law actually supports, if I see a deer out there eating my crops, I can shoot it or kill it by whatever means necessary. But I then have to destroy the animal. It cannot be harvested for food. Also, it's a reactionary move. I'm out there, instead of managing the population of animals on the property, I'm reacting to a situation which goes against the ethic of organic farming. We're all about prevention, working with nature, seeing it as a holistic system. So to us, the concept of coming in and actively managing the animals on there and harvesting them purposefully in partnership with North Carolina Wildlife Commission in order to feed the community seemed like a perfect approach to this. The other thing I can say is that on this firearms ordinance, if you look at it, there's a ... here. One of the things it's leaving out is that landowners in the city are permitted to use whatever weapons necessary to kill animals if they are, I think the language says, a threat to person or property. So the value of the crops that we're talking about, I think, certainly would count as property. I mean, my attorney has told me that if I were to be arrested for shooting deer on the property with guns, I would probably win in court. I don't know that that's ever been adjudicated in North Carolina. I don't know if the police chief would arrest me or not. I don't know if the DA would prosecute, and I don't know how it would end up in adjudication, but obviously if we're pushed into a reactionary mode to defend our farm, that's what we're gonna have to do. I don't think that's a good approach. I think the better approach is to come up with a plan here that is holistic and allows us to work with the environment, you know, that we're in. So that's kind of my perspective on it.
Since we spoke to you in 2018, has the problem worsened?
The problem is that particular property has not worsened, I will say. However, it's, in my opinion, it's not an issue of if, it's when. I mean, there are the adjoining properties to our farm, there's over 1,000 housing units going in the next 12 months. So the open space in the area is getting reduced, and the only place for these animals to go is on our farm. Now, we're committed to making every best effort to stay here as a community institution and manage this land organically. But at a certain point, that could become impossible for us. And I think that it's very unlikely that someone else would take that property and manage it the way that we do. So I think that over the next couple of years, I think it's going to become a major problem for us at that property. And so if we can get out ahead of it and manage the situation, like I said, in a holistic way, instead of getting pushed into a reactionary mode, because that property in Black Mountain where I told you we lost all that product, I mean, I've been there for more than 5 years, never had a problem. And then 3 days is all it took to just take it out. So that's the way it's going to happen when it happens.
Thank you for your honesty. I think you've always come with a lot of sincerity. I would like to see our staff work along with you because you presented the initial threat to your food production and to work along with the school as well to figure out if we are going to make an amendment that it includes the threat to your farm production as well as disease control as our limits and not just be one-sided.
Sure, I would love to be part of the conversation.
That's the way I would go too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, my feeling right now, and I realize that this wasn't the way I probably leaned in 2018, but I do probably sense that we, you know, we're getting, there's just more population of people and deer. So I guess what I'd like to have staff look at is property size in the area of like 20 acres, which is pretty big, I think. I mean, before you lock and load.
I think we were looking
That's
at
probably-
30 acres.
okay.
Before, including, and we found, I think maybe 10 properties that were 30 acres or larger,
Okay.
not many.
But then, so that'd be fine, 30 acres works. But again, with an idea of putting in place setback from other properties, some sort of notification of the other properties. I guess it does need to be within well, I guess from my perspective, I wouldn't care whether it was during the hunting season or not, but I don't know whether that's legal.
I care about hunting season. I think whatever our ordinance is, I think it should coincide with hunting season. But outside of that, I think the depredation permit will give you, outside of hunting season, the depredation permit will allow you to hunt as you see things happening. And I think both of those working together, to me, I don't think it's the most humane in my first, which a lot of people are against that. They believe that deer can leap over a 14-foot fence, which I don't see that happening, but I don't know. But maybe we can have a certain allowance where you can do, I don't want to say free fall, but a lack of better words, kind of free fall during hunting season. But outside of hunting season, I believe it should kind of follow strictly this depredation guideline where you have to see a deer in the act. If those two can work together, does that make sense to you?
I think their issue may be, and I mean, I respect that, the thing is I think what they're saying is, if you're working under the depredation permit, then you can't actually use the deer meat.
I'm sorry,
You must.
it's the other way. If you're working under the depredation permit, you
Oh.
can use the deer meat. If you are,
Oh,
if you're killing an animal outside of hunting season without a depredation permit, then you can't use the
Okay.
deer meat.
Oh, okay,
Mhm,
then,
yeah.
okay,
That's
that
the,
makes sense.
that's the reason for the depredation permit, is to make it so that it's not just shoot and bury.
Okay, and then I'd really like staff to work with the police department and make sure that, you know, they're pretty comfortable and, you know, I don't see them getting, and the other thing is, I saw you react when he said it would be okay to just shoot a deer on private property. I would like city staff to weigh in on that, to respond to that, you know, just generically in the city, you know, for whatever reason, are we allowed to?
We can comment on that now.
Okay.
If you want, I don't know if Brad wanted to, or,
We could comment briefly on it now. I think perhaps the best thing to do, since it's been brought up, is maybe have some little time to prepare a more thoughtful, developed response to that and provide it to council at the later date, before we would get to the point of making any kind of concrete decisions for this council to decide on.
This feels very funny for me. And I kind of did some of my own research. I don't know how realistic my research has been, but I saw where there is a kind of like a contraception, like something you can spray on something you can spray on vegetation or some type of vaccine that kind of controls fertility.
So I did do some further research into other types of population control. So the Wildlife Resource Commission provides this sort of like deer problems in residential areas, sort of like I want to say a digest, but it just provides a lot of information on it. The fertility treatments are very expensive and they don't always work. From what they've stated, also in regards to repellents, you have to put them on before there's a lot of deer population. They also come off very easily with raining. Also, deer can get used to them, from what the digest says. So they have information on like deer off that are commercial. They also have information on how you can create your own. And there's like deer no-no and hinder and all these different types, but the consensus based on my reading of their information is that there are a short-term fix and a long-term fix. You would have to constantly keep spraying them, but then the deer could also get used to it if they're hungry enough. Get used to the eating the plants with the repellents on it. Based on the information that I've gathered from the report.
Is it unrealistic? Does it carry a huge financial fee? Because you said that your property is 300 acres, but 200 is underdeveloped. Is there any way that you can fix parameter where the students will be trafficking? Yeah, sure.
Can you repeat your question, Ms. Knight?
Is fixing an option?
I don't believe so. I think it would be cost prohibitive. And let me say I'm sensitive to your hesitance. Essentially, with our campus, because we have 200 acres of forests, we're in a pretty unique situation. And I appreciate the guidelines that are currently in place for the city, but we essentially have 200 acres of wilderness. And as other people have pointed out, the development in and around Asheville has pushed this overabundance of deer onto our property. And I don't believe you were here for my presentation, but it's a complicated issue. I was here back in January, where they're really unhealthy. They're starving to death because of how many there are that are now confined to too small of an area. And I'm not coming in here as somebody who wants to go out and kill a bunch of animals. I'm actually coming out from a place of empathy for the animals and trying to restore some balance to the ecosystem that we have there. One of the things on the paperwork that I noted when I came in is it mentioned that the deer are damaging the saplings that we're planting, but there's another piece of the puzzle that they're overgrazing the natural woods. So it's not just the efforts that we're making, it's the natural process that they're disrupting. It is an unnatural situation that we've created and that we then have to manage. Again, I'm totally sensitive to your hesitation, and if I can talk you through any of this, I'm more than happy to. Okay, thank you. Can I answer any other questions while I'm here?
I just, tell the chair, I have a previous, and we changed the time. But, the only other thing that I would like some sort of sense of, what's our goal here in the sense of how many deer are here now how many deer are here now, and what's sort of our goal? I don't know that anybody wants the deer population to go to zero, so, I mean, I would just ask that we sort of put some parameters around kind of where we're starting and what the goal is, and I don't know how you do that exactly, and even if we have a current count, but.
And I will say that the current deer population, they count it by antlered bucks, which are the deer with the large antlers on top of their heads. There's lots of different types of deer. They're current right now, there's 1.92 antlered bucks per square mile as of 2019, whereas in 2000 there was 0.5. So the population is growing based on information that I got from the Wildlife Resource Commission, and in 2019 in Buncombe County, 1,048 deer were harvested during regular season. And that's both archery and gun season. So that's the information that was provided for me. And I can get in touch with the Wildlife Resource Commission to see what they suggest on how to put numbers on it outside of for goals purposes. I think they would be a good resource for that. So they do keep track of the numbers of harvested deer throughout the entire state and in the different areas. So I think they'd be a good resource. So I'll reach out to them.
I mean, that would just be my other sort of, when we're asking staff.
Yes,
I'm Ann Lee. I'm with the Neighborhood Association of Hillside Terrace, which is 33 homes on the perimeter of the Asheville School. And I want to speak first to the one con on this list of public safety. And that is just to say, and this came up at the last meeting, whether neighbors would be concerned about safety of having bow hunting happening on the Asheville School property. The property where the acreage, the central woods on the campus there where this hunt would occur is at probably half a mile from any of the homes surrounding that property, and it's down in a sort of depressed lake area, so they would be shooting down into that property, not toward the houses. So no concern about public safety at all. I really don't think that would be a concern of the neighbors. And just in terms of fencing, if you come through our neighborhood, anyone who has any kind of tree that they don't want the deer to eat, like we've all had to fence all of any kind of fruit tree, any kind of, shrub that you don't want them to eat. So we have lots of fences. And they're still getting in there. I have a neighbor who she has goats, and her entire yard is fenced for the goats. She says, every morning I wake up, there are 3 or 4 deer inside the fence. So it really, strategy has not been effective. I have a picture I sent to Chris of 15 deer grazing on the new landscaping right next door in my neighbor's yard, right? So this is just like right in our neighborhoods. The deer move. So they're moving back and forth, through the neighborhood, and as is true everywhere in West Asheville, every little lot is being infilled with development, so they are on the move all the time, from habitat where they've been, laying down at night into any area that is still doesn't have a house on it. So I feel strongly that the neighborhood would actually support this approach, and I think it is a holistic approach that would benefit the deer population, as well as the neighborhood and certainly the undeveloped land in the neighborhood. Thanks.
Hi there, my name is Joe Lasher, and I'm what they are offering as the solution to this problem. I'm the founder and executive director of Backyard Bow Pro, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that I started in 2011 because of conversations just like this. I've been to Carborough, I was in Pittsburgh. We've seen successes in towns like Valdez and some other areas that weren't mentioned when it comes to urban and urban archery. Christopher and everyone here has done a fantastic job about the science of why and where we are with this issue. Where I am is to talk to you about what happens when we make this change to the ordinance. We bring verified archery hunters that have been through proficiency tests, criminal background checks. In fact, we would talk with the APD. We all carry photo identification badges with unique identification numbers, QR codes. This information's on the arrows. We've taken everything. I won't have time to go into our complete program, but public safety and urban archery in areas like this is what we do. When we harvest that deer, we take that meat to state inspected processors, and we have it cut down into 1 pound ground usable packages of meat. Our team just here in Western North Carolina took over 4,500 pounds of venison this year to the YMCA nutrition program and many partner agencies of Manna Food Bank. Hunters have been hunting for food since the beginning. There's cave paintings of people bow hunting food, okay? So only today, this day and age, is where it's really become unfamiliar and separated from what's the norm. And so we don't come here today to argue an emotional argument of whether hunting for food is right or wrong. But we do come here today to say we have an outlet, and we have the means, and we've had public safety in mind since day one to take what's become a nuisance or a threat or whatever the private property owner has deemed, and use safest, most ethical means possible to get that meat back to people in our community that need it most. And I think if you talk to the food pantries and food banks, they'll tell you outside of money and funds, meat is what they need. And so we've had tremendous success with that. We have tremendous references of communities. So I just thought it would be good for you to hear from me that we talk about Lyme disease, and we talk about, we work with farmers all over the state, and when you're losing 20 to 25% of your harvest and your crop, and your land is only 2 acres or whatever, these people are really taking a hit. So I'm not here to talk science or that. I just want you to know that there's a need, we're a solution to the problem. And as you take into consideration and I want to commend you all, because it sounds like we're kind of moving forward. I've been to so many towns and municipalities where, the private property owners' wishes weren't really taken into consideration like you are. So I just want to thank you. And I don't know if you have any questions for me, but we can do a good thing here if we can make a slight change in this ordinance.
Anyone else wishing to make a public comment on this?